I like to, pass a message. I like to pass a message that is essentially impactful to society. And obviously that comes from the theme of the work. So the theme of the work most times is courage, high mental fortitude, resilience, because these are things that we are bound to face, experience in life. Yeah, it is never easy. The process is never easy. But if you have all of these principles and characters embedded in you as a person, you'll be able to overcome these complexities of life here.
Now, after these words, do you have anything in the offering? Because like they say, the mind of a writer never goes to sleep. It was always working. So what's in the offering for us? What are we looking forward to? Is there something that is coming up anytime soon that we should look forward to?
You want a book review?
Hello and welcome to another interesting edition on Primarald TV with the CEO of Primarald. My name is Tonye Barakumo Fawei and I'll be your host for today. Today we'll be looking at another aspect of the CEO of Primarald. Of course, it's talked about his business. We've talked about his upcoming events that's around the corner. But today we'll be looking at another interesting aspect of the life of the CEO of Primarald, Justice Ebiks Lokpobiri. A very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mrs. Fawei.
Okay. Like we said, behind the scenes, you're going to be telling us today about something different, something we're yet to know about you, which is writing. So many people out there have inspirations on the things they want to write about, but until you put pen to paper, you won't know how important it is those ideas are. So tell us about your journey through writing and how far you've come in it.
My writing journey is an interesting one, because it wasn't more like I was so much of a skilled writer. It was a learned process. I had an interest to write, or not typically as one who was so skilled in writing. The interest was born out of curiosity, was born out of, inquisitiveness, trying to observe life in different lenses and different views. So it was more like a philosophical perspective of life. I started up in secondary school, actually. So one day I was just standing at the balcony in school, facing the rear on the roads and looked people walking past. And I just thought that, people are moving and driven by purpose, and, they were driven by different ideologies. Just that motion alone kind of inspired you, triggered me to want to kind of write something about the dynamics of life and all of that. So I wasn't really sure what genre I was going to stick with, to be honest. I saw that I was good at storytelling in my head, of course, at least, because I wasn't too so skilled in all of the different aspects. Like if I was going to write in prose,
Fiction.
is it fiction, is it non-fiction, or is it going to be a play? So, well, just wanting to tell a story, inspired my writing journey.
Okay, so after the inspiration came in secondary school, what have you done with that inspiration? Have you been able to put pen to paper?
Yes.
Have you gotten works out there?
Yes. So the first time I started putting pen together was more like quotes. So I do used to read lots of quotes, and then I try to formulate mine based on how I perceive life.
Okay.
And my first manuscript, which sadly was discarded, was 101 quotes of inspiration in it. So
were you the one that discarded it, or you gave it to somebody to read and then the person didn't approve of it?
No, I discarded it myself. I think it was as a result of evolution as a writer.
Okay.
I thought that
did you think that wasn't mature enough to come out to the public, or you felt you just wrote out of the blue and it wasn't necessary that you put it out there?
Growing up, I thought that wouldn't have fit the commercial aspects of of writing on my journey. But it wasn't completely useless, because it kind of provided life to a different work. Okay, I was also writing scripts, stories here and there, just some short stories here and there. Most of my scripts just hasn't made it to publications. One did eventually, and that was born out of a sad circumstance. Sadly out of depression.
Can you tell us just a little about that circumstance that gave inspiration to that work you're talking about?
So first, the title is Insight for Success. It was a phase in my life where too many things just didn't make sense. And I questioned my very essence of existence. That was how depressed I was. One more quote of inspiration also was kind of being set aside at that point. So in the process of battling depression, I just decided to go into a creative venture. Of course, also with the desire that I want to become an author. But that wasn't the main focus anymore. I was just playing around with the pen.
Okay, does it, I'm sorry to interject here, but does it mean that being depressed, something good can come out of being depressed?
Yeah.
Being depressed, you were in a depressed state of mind when you wrote that book. So tell us about it. How did you turn something that would lead other people to committing suicide or doing something very not nice to themselves? How did you turn it into something as positive as writing a book?
It was all about the search to align with a sense of purpose in life. I felt that was my lowest point, for the thinking that I could actually do more that not only benefits me but benefits a larger society, triggered or ignited that passion, that drive to write. Insight for Success, like I've said.
Is that the title of the book?
That's the title of the book. Like I've said before, people mostly perceive it to be, are you trying to write about wealth? Are you trying to write about materialistic acquisitions and all of that? So no, it's all about, aligning with yourself, with a sense of purpose. If we truly define ourselves as successful, it means that we have served a good cause in society. They have contributed to, to the betterment of the life of people. You've contributed to making the next person a better person, as well as yourself. The Bible says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. So
Meaning you have to love yourself first.
commandment is love yourself.
Yes.
But when you love yourself, then you should show same sort of love to the next person. And so basically that drive to be a contributing factor to making society a better place was what gave birth to Insight for Success. And as soon as I was done with the work, I think that I overcame depression. That period.
You know what I mean? That you were happy with what came out of the book you wrote. Was that the reason you came out of depression?
I was happy because I was able to think deeply about life, its all essence, to understand what my duties and responsibilities are, to understand what my psychological alignments should be, to understand the complexities and the different dimensions of life. So I studied scriptures, I studied psychological books, I studied people as well, and it all made sense that essentially we are here as humans for a sole purpose of building, of growing, nourishing, of making things better. You step into a premises, you step into a terrain, you step into a place, and you should have an impact. Knowing all of this was like a self-sustaining mechanism. For you at that point, self-sustaining mechanism. It's also a guide. The book is also a guide. Kind of like if you go through it, it's like you have a lot of scriptural references and the rest. And if you want to know me as a person and understand where I'm coming from to where I'm going to, you read the book and you can clearly see, okay, these are the results of the writing process. And for those who have been able to follow me step by step to the way, and could easily tell that, oh, this guy has documented all of this process in his book. So it's easy to catch me as
What year was this? What year did you write this book?
2021 was when it was published, but the writing process started way before that. So it took about 3 years to complete.
After you wrote that book, Out of Depression, have you written something else?
I have.
Okay, tell us about that work.
Actually, I've written different works, but all fiction. I think I kind of align myself with fiction later on. Insight for Success is inspirational.
Okay.
It's motivation, but because I'm more inclined to storytelling, Insight for Success was more like a self-sustaining platform or a book that helped me to
come out from that state of mind that you were as a
circumstance. Well, I'm more inclined to fiction, to telling stories. So I did have, or I still do.
The telling of stories. Sorry to interject. The telling of stories. Is it a drama kind of
from fictional perspective?
Okay.
Now, of course, taking reality into consideration or into context, you tell a story that do not have real characters, real life characters depicting certain acts. But the storyline kind of refers to our realistic circumstances, our day-to-day life. One is published, that is Shadows of Nowhere, Midnight Odyssey.
Okay.
But before that, there are several manuscripts. I decided to publish that. It was inspired by Neil Gaiman's Sandman. Typically the character of Dream, Morpheus. So I read the book, I watched the movie, and Morpheus made you to understand that Dream is a different dimension of reality. It is there, it's a different dimension of reality that helps you to process your deep, your innermost thoughts, your fears, and everything in one.
Yeah.
And you see for yourself what you are, and it is depicted in your own image. So a lot of things make sense. So, but if you read the book, you wouldn't see Neil Gaiman's Sandman there. But that was an inspiration. It inspired the work. Shadows of Nowhere, Midnight Odyssey is an horror fiction as well, and it talks about Jerry, the main character, going through a journey. It's mostly mental journey, going through a journey of redemption. Has gone through lots of horrific circumstances in life and all of that, and then he associated or tied that to a family curse, or from his ancestral lineage. Okay, and with the quest to break out of that search and all of that. And if you read through the book, you would feel like all of these is happening in real time. It's all a dream.
Okay. Now, another question I'd like to ask is, have you been able to get some of these books you've written into the markets?
Yes, I have. So
So tell us about that.
yeah, Inside for Success is on the market. It's on Amazon. It's on different platforms. It's on hard copy. It's on soft copy. Shadows of Nowhere is also out on commercial basis. Inside for Success, though, typically, I wasn't very much aligned with, making it a commercial project or putting it out there for people to actually purchase, but that's fine. But I printed 1,000 copies, 80% of it distributed as free. Okay. Yeah, I gave it out because I thought it as a gift back to society. This helped me come out of depression. This helped me, battle several circumstances. I wasn't really inclined to, actually having some sort of commercial revenue. Yeah, but afterwards, moving into, my fictional work. I obviously wants to make money with it.
Of course, every idea is sellable.
Yeah,
And from what you're doing with yours, it's very good to market it and then see how it goes.
Sure.
Do you think that some of these works that you've written, how do you think they're going to have impact in society? Do you think somebody will read from your works and then get inspired by whatever you've written?
Yeah, for all my works do have a central,
Which is?
for Insight for Success, for instance, it has a theme of purpose, resilience, courage. And it's almost similar with Shadows of Nowhere, Midnight Odyssey as well. Courage. The central theme for that is courage, though. But it's more with mental fortitude, understanding what's inside of your head, eating it through, coming out, and be sustained. They're similar, but one is the pure storyline. You have the acts, you have the actions, you have the characters, you have the scenes. But with Insight for Success, because it's a motivational work, it is almost completely theoretical. But there are steps and procedures, but not necessarily somebody as a character displaying a particular act. So those are the differences. But I like to, pass a message. I like to pass a message that is essentially impactful to society, and obviously that comes from the theme of the work. So the theme of the work most times is courage, high mental fortitude, resilience, because these are things that we are bound to face, experience in life. Yeah, it is never easy. The process is never easy. But if you have all of these principles and characters embedded in you as a person, you'll be able to overcome easy complexities of life. Yeah.
Now, after these words, do you have anything in the offering? Because, like they say, the mind of a writer never goes to sleep. It was always working. So what's in the offing for us? What are we looking forward to? Is there something that is coming up anytime soon that we should look forward to?
I want a book review. Well, Yeah, I can share the next one that should be coming out at least very soon. It's titled The Commonplace. It's a fiction.
What's inspiration for this commonplace? I hope it's not depression this time around. It's something different.
You might have guessed it right, but it's a fiction. But this time around, it's quite fascinating because it's about someone who has it all. When you want something, you get it. You want something, you get it. You have it all. You're wealthy. You have attained educational qualifications. The whole world celebrates you. But that is what the world sees. You have someone who has an inward image of himself that is not satisfied and feels like there is a void that is yet to be filled. And essentially, yeah, he was depressed. And
How can someone have everything and yet be depressed?
there's a perception, or I think the notion, that someone who is depressed is lacking something.
Yes.
And that lack of substance is usually attached to materialistic substance.
Exactly.
When you study, I think mental health experts could explain that better, but when you understand the human psyche and also relating with economics, you know that human wants are insatiable.
Detachable, of course.
So you could have everything and
Want more?
not only want more. On a mental scale, it could be maybe you want some sort of spiritual alignment, you want some sort of, it could also be an alignment with probably a relationship or all different sort of things. But inside of your head,
You don't
there was something not complete.
There's a boy.
And sometimes you might, because you have everything, you might like, why is everybody around me? Why is everybody, it also brings up some sort of fear. And if you kind of attach depression to the lack of substance, especially materialistic substance, I can tell you, if you go to my village, there are people who lack materialistic substance.
But we are happy.
Very happy.
Yes.
Very excited. I mean, they don't even care if they were riding on Ferrari or they had a
business.
long trail. They are very much excited. So it's my intention to let the world know, especially I think that's credits to mental health experts, that look, just because one has everything doesn't mean it also requires mental health assistance or the person is absolutely satisfied. Take time to understand people, take time to, speak to their inner mind, take time to appreciate maybe how far they've come, take time to make them feel okay, that you can cry. You haven't, no matter how big or how small you are, it's okay to cry. It's okay to, feel like you're weak. And it's okay to still pick up and keep moving, because you don't just get there completely just because you have it all in substance. It's not so easy. Mental health.
And this is inside the book.
All of this doesn't give you like an articulate or theoretical framework of what's the level of, depression, like a process. For research, like inside postdoctorate, it talks about the process. It talks about, it categorically said, oh, depression, this is how to deal with depression. No, it's a story. You have the acts, you have the characters, you have the scene. So it is left for the readers to understand what the central thing of the story is about, which obviously is, depression. And then it's a tragedy. It didn't end well. It's a tragedy, I must say. He lost his life. It's a sad one. But it's not like something I've seen, but it's a fiction. So that would, don't take it your...
And rather, the writer didn't lose his own kind. And he's sitting here with us in the studio to talk about how he was able to overcome depression. Okay, with this new book that you just talked about, what did you title it again?
A Common Place.
A Common Place. When are we looking forward to having that? Maybe in our markets or in Amazon, or where? When exactly are we looking?
Come out in 2027.
September 2027.
That's when A Common Place should be out. September 2027. Do you want to know why the title is A Common Place?
Of course, that's
we all have mental capacity. There's a point of time in every individual's life. Every individual will show that sense of void. Everyone has been there. It's not a physical location. It's a mental state. We have all experienced it. So that's why it's titled A Common Place.
And you're sure we all have experienced it, because I'm sure there are people who live their lives on a plane. They don't even bother what tomorrow is going to in tomorrow.
They'll be laughing, smiling, be very cheerful, be very enthusiastic, be very lively. But trust me, there is a place inside of their mind at some point, not everything all of the time.
Yes.
At some point, there is an experience inside of their head that makes them feel like there is a void that is left unfilled. It's a common place for everybody. Common place, yeah.
It's okay. We'll be looking forward to having that in our bookshelves anytime soon. And I'm sure that the listener has gotten an insight of who exactly Justice Ebiks Lokpobiri is as a writer. And of course, you would have known by now that depression doesn't always lead to death or something bad. You can be depressed and still get something good out of your life. Like he said, he was depressed. Maybe some people will say, "Oh no, that wasn't depression. Maybe he was just feeling sad about his life or something." But depression, who has gone through that before would know what exactly it is to tell you, yes, I was depressed at some point in my life. Okay, I think this is where the curtain will fall on this segment of getting to know the CEO of Primarald, a multi-ventures company. And this is the writer's journey, the writing aspect of the CEO. I remain Tonye Barakumo Fawei, and I'm so glad that you've been there with us.
Thank you very much.